Hello, I'm watching Seth again. God Hand. Love that game. Let's see what Seth has to say in his God Hand review.
Hey people, Seth here. Today, I'll be covering a game that was overshadowed during its release, bombarded by critics and loved by absolutely everyone who isn't complete garbage at video games.
Also true.
A game which grinds through your analog sticks like butter, encourages healthy eating, respecting women, and emphasizes the virtues of the Good Samaritan principle. I'm speaking, of course, about God Hand, a game I was too impoverished to play as a child, since we couldn't afford a PlayStation, but now my PC is powerful enough to be
I had a PlayStation 1, 2, and 3 pretty much on release, even though I was a very poor Polish person. But like, I was a child, obviously, and my brothers were, older brothers were very casual about games, so we had no fucking chance to even come close to such a thing as God Hand. We only played like the biggest titles that, you know, pierced that casual scene of people playing video games like GTA, San Andreas, FIFA, Tekken 3, you know, the basics.
A PlayStation. Through the magic of emulation, God Hand can be played very comfortably
and I
on
had
your
to
own computer.
Like come back to God Hand via emulation, which I'm very thankful for, because playing this game now is impossible without an emulator unless you have the original copy of the game and the old hardware, which sucks.
And it works great. The simple gist of the game is the following. You play as Gene, a guy with
There is no fucking way we will get a remake or a re-release, because the company that made this game is no longer on this earth, so...
a fancy jacket and an insatiable appetite for fresh fruit. You're also disabled because your right arm has just been cut off by demons, but you've got a new arm now instead, the God Hand, thanks to Olivia, a girl who threatens to chop it back off if you don't do what she says. And now it's time to beat the shit out of all the thugs and demons responsible for disarming you. But you'll need to master the God Hand to stand a fighting chance, because this game doesn't play around. It's hard, it's very hard, and it only gets even harder. In this universe, the vast majority of punks, metalheads, and women want nothing more than to beat the shit out of you instead. The fighting system is easy to learn, but insanely difficult to master. For a start, Gene operates on tank controls, which might seem bizarre, but makes perfect sense once you understand the purpose of it. The left stick turns and moves you around. The right stick is designed exclusively for dodging.
This sounds like such a bad idea, but it works so fucking hard. Like, you have no control over your camera. Essentially, left stick controls both movement and the camera, so the camera is always pointed in front of your character. And that is very weird, and it results in some messy situations in gameplay. But the right stick being on exclusively for different, like, dodge directions, that shit is cocaine for your brain. If you experience it once, you will go, oh my god, that is the best system any game ever fucking made. I wish some game brought it back. It's so goated with the sauce.
It turns and moves you around. The right stick is designed
just look at how fucking smooth that looks when he dodges. I love that.
Dodging. The other buttons let you use your techniques. Pretty simple, right? Wrong. Each of your buttons can be instantly remapped to do different moves and techniques. There's a lot of techniques. There's 117 of them you can pick up during the story or buy from your local convenience store. If you choose poorly, you won't even be able to dispatch normal enemies, let alone bosses. But that's not all. There's a bar at the bottom of your screen. That's your tension meter. The more hits you land, the more damage you do. The more damage you do, the quicker the tension meter gets filled up. Once it fills up, your right arm starts glowing, and if you smack the right button on your controller, you unleash your God Hand. The powers of a god are temporary, but in this short span of time, Gene is completely invincible, lightning fast, and hits twice as hard, while your theme song plays in the background. It's amazing, but that's not all. Picking up cards during your fights fills up your roulette wheel, which triggers whenever you smack the
only thing that's really, because you design your own auto combo. Like, you have different like, for example, in DMC or Bayonetta, you have different combos with different weapons, obviously. But they are designed baseline by the developers, and they have to make sure that the game is beatable with those combos. The problem with God Hand is that you make your own auto combo with square, and you can make your basic attack unusable if you put wrong moves in. That really fucks up the game. I wish they did something like you could do presets, for example, so that you had a default one that's recommended by the developers, and then you had your own little like loadouts you could experiment with. Because yeah, this game does not give a fuck if you have unusable combos. It will throw everything at you, even on normal difficulty.
Everything goes slow-mo, and you get to choose from a selection of every roulette move you have equipped. This can be anything from a ball buster, head slicer, 100-punch combo, or even a dragon kick that sends your enemies.
This is way more forgiving because there are so many useful roulette moves that you will eventually figure out which one works and which one don't.
Flying out of a solar system. As a word of caution though, Ballbuster doesn't work on women, robots, or one of the first two bosses because he lost his testicles in the war. The lore of God Hand is very deep, but the fighting system goes even deeper. Most games increase the health of your enemies to give you the illusion of difficulty. God Hand does no such thing. The better you do, the more hits you land, and the more hits you dodge, the higher your level becomes. What does this mean? It means enemies start kicking your ass. As level increases, so do their abilities. They start using moves you've never seen before. They start changing their patterns to throw you
I
off.
wish more games did difficulty like this, where AI just gets more tools to destroy you the higher the level of the game.
Level 3, and level die. If you get to level die, you are expected to die. If you don't want to die, I suggest you get on your hands and knees and start groveling for mercy. God Hand doesn't play around. But if you take the time and improve, you'll learn how to take the heat. And when you do, I assure you, you'll feel like an actual god. There's an overpowering sensation of ecstasy once you've figured it out. After getting creamed repeatedly by the same boss, by the same encounter, it all suddenly clicks. And once it clicks, you can't go back. You ride on pure adrenaline and muscle memory to repeat the same fight. And this time, you're not surviving. You're styling on your enemies. Before you know it, it's already over. You've won, and you're only left hungry for more. God Hand was very progressive for its time, and it features a very diverse and multicultural cast. The first boss you go up against is literally two gay guys who proposition Gene. Gene responds by saying, "I'm not that kind of guy." But as the story progresses and Olivia keeps slave driving Gene into doing more and more ridiculous stunts at the cost of his health and personal safety, Gene looks back and considers that
even for like Japanese anime, you know,
exclusive to Gene alone. The second boss
standards.
Elvis is a Mexican demon struggling with weight loss. He's got some of the best dialogue in the entire game.
A la mierda. You know what? I'm getting a bit hungry. And a little huevon sounds like it would hit the spot. I don't think you realize what you're getting yourself into, pendejo.
Besides educating Gene on the basics of the Spanish language, Elvis turns out to be a big softy, who's as much of a victim to his circumstances as is Gene to his unwanted responsibility. He hates people who disrespect the dead, and he also hates people who disrespect his demon waifu, Shannon, who you repeatedly encounter and spank to death. By the end of the game, Gene has arguably found more humanity and common ground with the antagonists he faces than the repeatedly ungrateful woman he's working for. God Hand is extremely quotable.
Thank you!
Thank you.
And extremely memorable.
There is... I know it's a cliche, but they just don't make it like that anymore. They just don't make games like God Hand anymore. To be fair, back then they also didn't make games like God Hand. God Hand is just one of a kind.
Because
by a
all the
wide
enemies keep
margin.
quoting Mike Tyson. The game is an absolute meme, but originally was never designed as such. The developers just put some humor in the trailer for the 2008 E3 conference, but received such positive feedback that they went back and remade the game into the masterpiece it is now. It was, unfortunately, the last game ever made by Clover Studios. However, most of the team went on to work with Platinum Games, which was responsible for most of the crazy fighting games that came out in recent years. It's got insane amounts of replayability, and it's something I always come back to after every few years. It's just that good. It's also very easy to miss some of the subtleties on your first run. For example, Chihuahua Racing. In the main menu, you can always pop into the store, casino, and fighting arena to practice your moves. But after a certain point in the story, you can also start gambling on, you guessed it, poison chihuahuas. This is a very easy way to quickly lose all your money, or make back 20 times your original bet if you know what you're doing. My only advice, always bet on Clover. You'll thank me later. Also, enemies have special interactions if you satisfy certain conditions. If you manage to get one of the average, run-of-the-mill thugs down to no health at all, he'll start faking a seizure and begging for help. If you foolishly get too close, he'll kick Gene in the ballsack, reducing your health to a single point instantly. I also found out if you get a demon down to a single pip of health, you can poke them. They'll explode. There's probably more, but even as someone who's played and beat the game repeatedly, I can't call myself an expert. Even after all this time, Level Die turns me into a crying, sobbing little bitch, and there's no shame in admitting that. Some of the original reviewers of this game, however, cannot, and for that reason, Imagine Babies still holds a higher score on IGN than God Hand.
I will never fucking forgive IGN for that score. It's
that turn many boys into men and turn many men
terrible.
into crying, sobbing little children. For that,
and you have to remember that today nobody takes IGN seriously because they're shit fucking video game journalists. But back then, when you saw a weird game like God Hand, you were like, "What the fuck is this? I have never heard about this character action game. I don't even know what that means. Let me look up some reviews or like check my fucking gaming magazine for reviews." Back then IGN had much more swaying power, and they probably are responsible for God Hand not piercing the Western market as well as it could have if somebody wasn't a complete casual.
Reason alone, I give it a very good score. But when I consider that it's a goddamn masterpiece, I give it a perfect score. To reiterate the words of one presenter, one epitaph for Clover Studio. We made one of the best games of all time, and it was just a game about punching people. God Hand. It's amazing, it's addictive, and it's very satisfying. Respect the game, and it will respect you back. Highly recommended. Go play it. In lieu of the fact that you can't actually get a copy of God Hand anymore, I've linked it in the description below, which contains the game, the emulator, and everything you need to get started. But Seth,
I wonder
you need
if
a working PS2 BIOS to emulate God Hand?
I wonder if the link still works.
Which I hope you've legally obtained from your own PlayStation 2. These are all good questions, and they will be answered shortly. But more importantly, what's Seth been spending all of his sponsorship money on? I'll tell you. I hired every hentai artist to make lewd commissions of Olivia getting dicked, because there's too little God Hand hentai. All this shilling was for a good cause. I've linked every commission I made in the description below. I hope you understand. The ends justify the means. But even more important,
how much? Sorry?
Justify the
Jesus Christ, that is a lot of money spent on a noble cause.
But even more importantly, if you're unfortunate enough to be living in the Sharia state of Britain, the UK porn block is going to start July this same year, all in the name of protecting our children, which
I don't think you have to worry about that anytime
If
soon.
statistics how well government projects usually go, there's absolutely nothing to worry about. Just present your personal ID card, punch in your personal details, and stop worrying. Porn sites have some of the best security on the planet. Better than Habbo Hotel? Probably. So it's very unlikely that your favorite smut site will get hacked or compromised and leak all of your personal information that could then be used to blackmail you in the future. However, if you're still unconvinced and don't want to put your safety in the hands of your infallible government, there is an alternative. And
don't question your government, never.
ExpressVPN, because they're very good. Use my link and you get 3 months of Express UK and completely evade this well thought out and completely unexploitable law they're pushing down our throats. Personally, I don't know if a UK lawmaker even knows what a Daojin, hentai, or Buru site even is. Arguably, there's more porn to be found on Skyrim Nexus than all of those sites combined, but we'll never know until we actually do it. As always, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. And as always, more content to come, so stay tuned. I'd like to inform you all that shilling is complete, which means we're back in business.
See anything you want? Rotten hell, you penny-pinching miser!
Jesus Christ. God Hand, very good game. I would tell you, like, buy it and support the company, but you cannot buy it and you cannot support the company because it doesn't exist. Almost as if the state of modern video games was a little bit depressing, right? Crazy thought. Anyway, see you in the next one.